Hi everyone, welcome to or back to my channel. My name's Annie and today I'm going to be doing the Scream book tag. Before we kick things off, I know that there's probably birdsong. I hope it adds a nice, beautiful, calming atmosphere to my video. I am in my room, which is actually the sunroom of our house, and that's why you will be hearing bird noises. That's all I can say. I was wanting to do a book tag video because I really love making them, and I was thinking since it's spooky season, I should do one based on my favorite horror movies. So I looked up Scream book tag and I found this one by Dark and Twisty Books. It doesn't look like she's active on BookTube anymore, but I will link her channel down below. She created a tag with 9 prompts, each based on a different character from the Scream films, and I think it's honestly just characters from the first one, which I love. If you want to know my personal ranking of the Scream films, because I feel very strongly about this, it is 1 and 4 are tied. I don't know if anyone cares about this. I'm gonna tell you anyway. 1 and 4 are tied for first place, 2 is in second place, 3 is in third place, and then 6th, and then 5th at the bottom. I didn't really like the new generation very much. The 6th one was okay, but I'm wanting it to grow on me more. I don't know if there will ever be the 7th movie because of the production disasters I've heard of. Anyway, that's such a tangent. So first up, we have a prompt named after Casey Becker, the first victim.
You making popcorn?
Uh-huh.
I only eat popcorn at the movies.
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
And the prompt is, pick a hyped book you expected to love but didn't. I have 2 for this, and I was pretty disappointed by both of them. I read them both this year, and the first one is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I really wanted to like this. I thought it was gonna be so fun and goofy, and to be fair, it was pretty goofy, but just not in a way that I really liked. I had read one other Ali Hazelwood at that point. I think it was Love Theoretically, and I really loved it, like way more than I was expecting to. I don't know why, but in my head, Ali Hazelwood have been someone where I was like, I just don't think I'll like her books, but I loved Love Theoretically. And I was excited about Bride because I love a good vampire werewolf story. Okay, the birds are being really loud. Sorry, also if I'm squinting, it's because it's actually really bright out here. So if you didn't know, Bride is set in a world where vampires, werewolves, and humans all live not in harmony, but like they each have their own designated areas type of thing, and then there's lots of legal deals that keep the peace. Our main character is, what is her name again? It's something silly, like Spite or something. Malice? Let me see. Misery. Actually, you know what? Misery is kind of a great name. Misery Lark. It's fun. So Misery Lark is the daughter of like the vampire king, right? And she becomes betrothed to the werewolf alpha because politics. Okay, they're trying to keep the peace, and they're making this deal where like they're gonna send her over to werewolf territory. She's gonna be a bride for a bit. Eventually, I think she's able to come back. I don't know if the marriage gets dissolved. I really can't remember. I read this like 2 months ago. And then we have this whole kind of like enemies to lovers type of thing with her and her werewolf husband. Off the bat, I don't think I was actually going into this expecting anything crazy. I expected to really like it. I thought it would be kind of campy, kind of fun, kind of ridiculous. But I had like high expectations in the sense that I thought I was going to really enjoy it. And it was fine. It wasn't like a major disappointment, but I think a lot of other people resonated with the book a lot more than I did. I ended up finding the plot kind of half-baked, especially the politics part, and just confusing. The romance aspect was so strong that there was an underlying like political intrigue plot going on in the background that I simply couldn't follow because there was not enough time dedicated to it. So when things happened by the end, I was like, well, okay, I guess I have to accept that because I haven't been able to follow any of the other political intrigue plot points. You know what I'm saying? It was fine. Also, there is nodding in this book, which I'm not going to tell you what that is. If you want to know what that is, look it up, but be warned. It's a lot. And so the smut in this book was a lot, especially on the audio. It was a lot. It was a lot. That's all I can say. So it was fine. I just really wanted to like it, and I didn't. The characters were like kind of predictable. There's this whole found family aspect of it, which I wanted to believe more, but I just didn't really end up caring about. There's a kid in this that I think we're supposed to like, and I just found her a little bit annoying. I think maybe I'm just not the reader for this book. The other book I have for this prompt is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I think I actually finished this maybe last week. Once again, fine. I think actually the more I think about it, the more confused I feel, which is pretty rare for me. Usually I like might finish a book confused, but I know how I feel in the coming days or weeks. But I think I don't know. This was my first T. Kingfisher book, and she's an author that I really want to like. And I just didn't like this book. There was something about it that just felt very like bland to me. There was something kind of boring about this book, if I'm being honest. I finished it because I listened to it on audio, and it was only like 5 hours, so I was able to finish it pretty quickly. But I think if I've been physically reading it, I might have given up. And then I tried to start What Beasts at Night, which would be the second in this little series, I guess, that she's doing. And I DNF'd it at maybe 20% out of, again, like 4 or 5 hours on audiobook. Let me explain first let me explain what Moves the Dead is. It's a retelling of a short story by Edgar Allan Poe called The Fall of the House of Usher. You might have heard of it. I went to this English bookstore by myself in Provence, and I wanted to read something short while I was there, and I saw this big volume of Edgar Allan Poe short stories. And The Fall of the House of Usher is a story that I had heard about and been intrigued by for a while, especially because, you know, the Netflix show came out. I don't know, actually, after watching the trailer, how much that has to do with simply The Fall of the House of Usher. I think it draws from a lot of his different short stories, so I don't know if I'll watch it. Anyway, I sat in that bookstore and I read it in Provence, and it was so nice. Except there was this old lady there that kept talking and distracting me. Another tangent, I apologize. Anyway, so The Fall of the House of Usher is about a man that receives a letter from his friend Usher. There's a brother and sister. I can't remember what they're called. We'll call them Jake and Sarah. And Todd. Let's say Todd is the one that goes to visit them. So Sarah is sick with this like really weird illness. So Todd gets to their estate, which is like this big kind of gothic mansion, and it looks disgusting. It's like it's falling apart. He doesn't love it. He's like feeling like he should turn back, but he's like, you know what? She's dying. Like Sarah is dying, and I am friends with these people. I gotta go and give my support to Jake and like be there for Sarah in her last days, blah blah blah. And then things go from there. And What Moves the Dead is basically same plot, but we add some like biological horror stuff. Is that the right term for it? There's like stuff with mushrooms happening. I mean, as you can see on the cover, there's like fungi and stuff involved. I don't know. I think when I think about it as a story, I do think it's good. I like those aspects of it with the biological horror, but I just think it was the characters for me. I just didn't care about them. What I will say is cool about this book is that the world it's set in is really interesting. This was a novella, so there was not like the most amount of time to get into this world. But our main character is a sworn soldier for this fictional country. And when our main character swore themselves to be a soldier, they took on they, them pronouns from what I understand. It got a little bit murky. That was cool to see. There is definitely some sort of conversation happening about gender identity, and our main character is non-binary, which I thought was really cool. But I just didn't care about the characters personality-wise, which is why I didn't like it. I'm just gonna stop there. Like, I just didn't didn't love it. I will potentially try more Tea Kingfisher in the future, but this didn't make me want to, you know? So next up we have Sidney Prescott, the woman herself.
So, how's the book?
Well, it'll be out later this year.
Oh, I'll look for it.
I'll send you a copy.
I love her to death. Also, if they do make another movie, they have to pay her to be in it because she's the final girl. Pick a main character with a tragic past they must overcome. And for this, I'm gonna choose Vin from Mistborn. I have the first one here, The Final Empire. This book and this series are so good. I need to finish it. Oh my god. Okay, this is the first era of Mistborn. It's a trilogy. I've read the first two. It's by Brandon Sanderson. If you know him, you probably love him. He's like one of the best fantasy writers currently, or at least one of the most popular. I personally really like him. The Final Empire is about our main character Vin. She grows up as a street urchin, and she's part of this like inferior race that inhabits this world called the Ska. Her parents died when she was pretty young, leaving her and her brother out on the streets, and then eventually it became just her thieving to get by and working as a slave. In this world, this is sort of an urban fantasy setting. We have our main kingdom, and there are people that can do magic using different metals that they metabolize, and usually someone will have a specialty in just one metal. Like, let's say they can burn, that's what they call metabolizing iron, and it will let them do something like, let's say, pull objects towards them. I can't remember if that's actually what it is, don't quote me. But Mistborn have the power to use any metal. Well, any of the like special magic metals. So they are like the Avatar, basically. And Vin meets this Mistborn named Gale that realizes that she's also a Mistborn. He recruits her to overthrow the leader of their city and basically the world. It's a beautiful story about found family and friendship and Vin's growth as a character from someone who has basically had it drilled into her never to trust anyone because everyone's gonna leave, to becoming someone that has to learn to depend on people and trust people. I think is so beautiful. Brandon Sanderson is just such a great writer, and the way that he subtly kind of injects emotion into his characters and small moments become really emotionally impactful, I think is so beautiful. So I highly recommend The Final Empire for our prompt for Miss Sidney Prescott. Hi, editing Annie here. For some reason, I completely forgot to say what this next prompt was. So for this one, we have Billy Loomis, the suspicious boyfriend, and the prompt is pick up trash love interest that wasn't there for the main character.
The Exorcist was on. Got me thinking of you.
For this one, I'm gonna pick Ben from Heartstopper. I have been watching the new season of Heartstopper. I'm not all the way through yet because I found this season to be very emotional for me personally, and so I'm taking it very slowly, but it's so good and so well done. I am completely caught up on the Heartstopper series. If you haven't read the Heartstopper graphic novels, you definitely should, especially if you enjoy the show. I think the show is actually potentially becoming a bit better than the graphic novels in my opinion, because it has the space to really explore the relationships of the side characters that we don't see as much in the Heartstopper graphic novels. But the graphic novels have such a special place in my heart and they're so incredible. Really quickly, in case you didn't know, but I feel like you probably do, Heartstopper is about Nick and Charlie, who are students that go to the same school. And Charlie has been out as gay for a while, but he's kind of ridiculed for it. And then he meets Nick, who's like slightly older and a rugby lad. They become friends, and it's all Charlie being like, oh my god, I have a crush on Nick, but I think he's straight. And then it's Nick doing the like, am I gay quiz. It's so good, so heartwarming. Like, it actually sometimes makes me cry because I'm so happy. And I'm just usually like giggling and kicking my feet the whole time. Some of the volumes can be quite emotionally intense for some people, so just be warned. There's lots of topics discussed. If you feel triggered by anything, don't engage with this. But I would say that the representation for different issues, I guess specifically right now what I'm talking about is eating disorders, I think is really, really great. To say a bit about Ben as a character, he is a villain. He's basically an antagonist. He's Charlie's ex-boyfriend, and I believe they're still dating at the beginning of the first volume, but they're kind of off and on. Charlie finds out that Ben is publicly dating a girl while seeing Charlie on the side in secret, and then things take a bit of a worse turn and Ben becomes just absolutely horrible if you didn't think he was already horrible. I'm gonna put up a spoiler sign now because I'm gonna talk about why I really enjoy his arc. Ben is horrible. He assaults Charlie. I don't know why I was listing things. That's pretty much what he does. Gross, disgusting, get him away, right? But I forget which volume it is. I don't know, maybe volume 3 or 4. Ben starts to learn things and really start to repent. And he tries to talk to Charlie and apologize. And it's this moment where Charlie's like, no, I don't forgive you for what you did. And also, I don't have to be there to see you like learn and grow. Like, great, good for you, but I don't have to be there for that. I don't have to witness that. You've hurt me. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And I think that that's a really good message. Like, he doesn't get a redemption arc really. Like, maybe he is outside the story, but Charlie doesn't have to see that. Nick like also stands up for Charlie in that moment. It's really sweet. I really actually like that message. I think sometimes we're taught a bit too much to forgive people, and I'm not saying forgiveness is bad. Like, okay, it's a great thing, but some people maybe just don't deserve forgiveness. I can't remember if Charlie actually said he forgives Ben, so take this with a grain of salt, but I personally felt like that was a really great choice in the story because, yeah, Charlie does not have to go and watch his abuser like become a better person or have to be there and be like, yay, good job, you don't suck as much anymore. No. And I love that Alice Osman did that. I love her very much. Next up we have Tatum Riley, the best friend. Tatum was always so slay. Pick a great friendship pairing. I have to pick Sam and Sadie from Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I really need to get a copy of this book. I'm always thinking about how I need to get a copy of it because I read it on audio and I loved it so much. I need to reread it. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is by Gabrielle Zevin, and it is such an amazing book. It follows Sam and Sadie throughout, I would say, like a couple decades, from when they're preteens, teenagers, to when they're in their 30s perhaps. And it's so good. It reads like you're watching a movie. I don't know if anyone's read A Little Life, which so many issues with that book, but one thing I will say is that it really transports you there, and the moments you read about feel almost cinematic, and this is the same with Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It's so good, especially if you're a gamer. You should read this. They are both in the hospital as teenagers or preteens. I think they're like 12. Sam has recently lost his mother, if I'm remembering correctly, and he hasn't spoken a word in days, weeks, I'm not sure. The only thing he does in the hospital is he goes downstairs to the like hospital basement and plays these little arcade games that they have there. Whenever he has free time in the hospital, that's what he does. And Sadie is there getting treatment for herself. And she comes down one day and she's like, oh, what you playing? They start playing games together. They're like getting along. They're being a little competitive. And the nurse comes down and is like, oh my God, you got Sam to talk. He hasn't talked in ages. And from there, a friendship begins that has ups and downs. It's honestly a roller coaster, and this book makes me so emotional. It's so well written and so lovingly written. I just have to highly recommend, and Sam and Sadie are incredible incredible characters. Like, I fully feel like I know each of them as a person outside of the story. I can imagine them and what they would say to certain things. That is my favorite thing, when authors can create characters that actually feel really real. Oh, I forgot, also they become game programmers and they create video games, which is also why, if you love video games, definitely read this book. And I was wishing that these were real games that I could play. Like, they were so it's just so good. You should definitely read it. Next up, we have Gale Weathers, the icon, the queen, and this prompt, the outsider.
Move it, Kenny.
You're not letting anybody in.
I'm not just anyone.
Pick a book outside your comfort zone that you really enjoyed, and for this I'm gonna go with Yona of the Dawn by Mizuho Kusanagi. I believe I said that correctly. This is volume 33. I don't have the first volume, but I am obsessed with this series. There is a vlog coming soon where I read all 44 volumes, so be prepared. It's gonna be long. Hopefully you like it. I would say that this was out of my comfort zone only because I have been trying to get into manga honestly maybe since September of last year, so yeah, maybe for a year now, and I had never finished a series before. I had started Hell's Paradise. I think that series became a lot less about the characters and a lot more about the action and the plot, so I DNF'd it. Monster I want to go back to, but I just, something like didn't hold my attention. So this was my third attempt at finding a manga series that I really loved, and it did not disappoint. Yona of the Dawn is such a good series, and it just gets better and better as you go, which I think is part of what makes it so good. The plot is super well paced and things happen slowly, but not so slowly that you feel like nothing's happening, if that makes sense. It's about our main girl here, Yona. She is a princess of this fantasy kingdom. It's kind of like historical fantasy. She is living in the castle. She's a little bit spoiled, kind of a brat, and like super vain at the beginning. She gets a lot better, but at first I was like, you're so annoying. Now she's one of my favorite characters. She has these two boys in her life. One of them is her cousin, Suwon, who she has a crush on. So let's just ignore the fact that it's her cousin, because we're gonna say historical times, blah blah blah. Yeah, but he's her cousin. The other one is her bodyguard named Hawk. Now the three of them were like childhood friends, super close, and when we open, it's Yona's birthday. There's gonna be a big party, and she finds out that Suwon is coming, so she's like, oh my god, I have to go get ready. Then things on her birthday don't go quite as expected. I'm not gonna spoil the ending of the first volume. To me, it's a pretty big twist. For other people, maybe it was spoiled, but I didn't see it coming. So I think if you don't know anything about this, I don't want you to know anything. But the thing that happens sets off this journey that Yona goes on, and she meets friends along the way. She goes around the kingdom to other kingdoms in the area. There is political intrigue, romantic angst, found family. It's just beautiful. I also love the art style. I don't know, there's something so beautiful about the character design. Kusanagi does all the artwork for the covers and all the way through the volumes, so I just really love this series. Could not recommend enough if you love manga, basically, and character-driven stories, or if you're looking to get into manga. I think this is a really good place to start. Next up, we have Deputy Dewey, the Protector. I love him so much. And the prompt for this is pick a comfort read you reach for in times of stress. And for this one, I have two. Once again, these are books that I read over and over and over again as like a, I don't know, honestly, maybe from when I was like 8 to when I was as old as 15 or 16. I would reread these over and over and over again. The first one we have is The Mother-Daughter Book Club by Heather Bogo Frederick. I haven't read this in so long. I don't think I've talked about this on my channel either. This series is so good. It's a middle grade series, and it's just chef's kiss, like so incredible. Basically, it's about what the title says, a mother-daughter book club. So There are these 4 girls that are in middle school. Okay, I think high school. But yeah, they're around that age, and their moms are all like friends, and they're wanting their daughters to be friends and to spend more time with their daughters, so they create a book club. We have 4 main characters and we get alternating perspectives. So there's Emma, who's a bit shy and bookwormy. I've got Megan, who's like popular mean girl. Cassidy is my favorite. She's like a tomboy. She loves hockey, and she honestly cannot be bothered to be reading. And Jess, who is like a horse girly, she and Emma are best friends. And each book of the series, the book club is reading a different book. So in the first one, it is Little Women. The second one, I think, is Anne of Green Gables. They read Jane Eyre. I can't remember the last one, but they read books that I also loved and had read by the time I read these for the first time. So I think that's another part of why I really fell in love with these books. Not only did the characters begin to feel like my friends, the books are intertextual. The characters in the books take what they're reading about, in this instance, Little Women, and apply the lessons in that book to their own lives, which I just think is really nice. It sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's great. And then you see the moms and the daughters bonding, and you see the girls bonding with each other, and there's romance, and there's like all these little things that happen, and it's just so good and so comforting. I, as you can probably tell from this video, really appreciate books where characters feel real, where they feel like they could be my friends. And growing up, I was pretty shy and I moved a lot. So I would say that book characters were kind of my besties because they didn't change, they didn't leave me, they didn't move away. I could bring them wherever I went. Not to get too sappy, but I love this series. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. I honestly think it could appeal to anyone of all ages, and I really want to reread them. The next one I have for this is a series I've mentioned a couple times on my channel already. I want to do a reading vlog for this series because it is Christian fantasy, and I am an atheist, but I grew up Christian, and I want to see if they would hold up. I actually have a lot of faith in them because if you think about like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like the Narnia series, they have kind of a universal appeal, and I think that these would too. This is Dragonspell. It's the first book of the, I think the series is called the Dragonspell series by Donita K. Paul. I loved these books growing up. There are 5 of them. For some reason, I would only get to halfway through the 4th one, and then something would happen and I'd stop. So I have them all now, and I want to read them all the way through. This first one is about our main character, Gale. Yes, like the plant, but we love her. She is a slave living in this really small town, and she finds a dragon egg, and she has, it appears, a special connection to it. So the elders of her village send her to the capital city and are like, you gotta figure this dragon stuff out because it seems like you got something going on there. And on her way to the capital, she finds like 6 more dragon eggs or something, and is in a spot of trouble after she recovers these eggs. She runs into 2 people who say, hey, we're coming to get you. We know that you have this ability with dragons, and we gotta take you on this quest to save our kingdom. There's basically this evil guy trying to raise a dragon and make it evil and take over. This series is so good. It's so classic fantasy. The characters are so great, and the friendships formed are so amazing. It reads very cozy to me, even though there's actual action and plot. This was another instance where I was like, I would just reread and reread for comfort, and I can't wait to read them again. My god, it's getting so hot in here. Next up we have Stu Macher, the Goofball. Stu, wow, the guy that played Stu, I can't remember his name, but he should get more roles. He played someone in Scooby-Doo, didn't he? But he's really good. The prompt is pick a book that doesn't take itself seriously, even when it should. The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. As you can see, this copy is very well loved. This was another book that I read over and over. I would actually read the whole series over and over. This book And our main character, Percy, honestly, they should be taking things more seriously sometimes. But that's part of why I love it. You probably know of Percy Jackson. You probably read Percy Jackson. In case you haven't, this is about Percy. He is a kid that is struggling. He lives in New York with a single mom, and he keeps like flunking out of schools or being called like a problem child and switching schools all the time. He has dyslexia, has a really hard time in school, and then he finds out that he's a demigod and his dad is Poseidon, and he is whisked away to Camp Half-Blood, which is a camp for demigods, and embarks on a quest to return Zeus's stolen lightning bolt. It is a Greek mythology inspired story, and these are so good. I want to catch up with Rick Riordan's backlist, or not. I don't know if it would be a backlist. I need to read like his new stuff. I want to get back into it because I love these so much. Percy is like, he's sarcastic, he's goofy, he doesn't care about the rules. He does some things that are actually so, like, no one else would do that. If you know this part in the book where he sends Zeus a little package while he's on the quest, no. Also, Zeus thinks that he stole the bolt, so he's kind of in trouble for that. There's no, like, he didn't, but Zeus thinks he did. I forgot to say that earlier. He's just a joker, and he's my favorite of the jokesters. I love him so much. Next up, we have Neil Prescott, Sidney's dad, the red herring. Pick a book with a plot twist you didn't see coming. And for this one, I mean, I did mention Yona of the Dawn. The plot twist in the first volume was crazy, but if I had to choose another one, it would be The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, which I actually just finished maybe 2 days ago. I don't know if I should have seen the plot twist at the end coming, but I sometimes with audiobooks, I just like let myself go on this ride, and I was reading it on audio and it happened and I was like, oh, okay. And I think I liked it. I'm still figuring out my feelings about this book. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi is about a man, I think he's just an unnamed narrator the whole time, and he is married to this woman named Indigo. Indigo is super mysterious. The two of them are both obsessed with fairy tales. He's some sort of like historian of fairy tales, something like that. And she is just like super mysterious and like a little bit pick-me and annoying, but whatever. She's like mystical. They're married, but he doesn't really know much about her, like her personal life, her family life, and she is basically like, don't pry into my personal life, you will lose me as a bride. This is my one rule, like, don't pry. At the beginning of the book, they get a message that her aunt is passing away, so they have to return to her childhood home, the House of Dreams, which is a place that has its own magic in itself. The husband and Indigo go back, and it's kind of like, okay, well, how can the husband really help it? He is in her childhood home. Of course, he's gonna want to know more about her past, especially when he starts hearing mentions of a girl named Azure that used to be super close with Indigo and has mysteriously disappeared. From this point, we do get alternating perspectives from Azure in the past and our narrator, the bridegroom, in the present tense. And the book is just so whimsical. Like, the writing is stunning, the atmosphere is stunning. I wouldn't say it was a book that like completely stole my heart, but 4 stars out of 5 for sure. I really loved it. I think something the book did really well is that you actually do think that you know how it ends the whole time, and I wasn't mad about seeing it go down the path that I expected, but when it took a turn, I was like, oh, and it made me think back on everything differently. And I think that that's kind of a sign of a really good plot twist. So I would say I really liked it. I definitely recommend, especially for autumn. It's like spooky fairy tale vibes. And the audiobook I thought was quite good. Last but not least, we have Randy, the Rules Master.
If they'd watch prom night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
Pick a book which defies a common book trope. And for this one, I've chosen Penance by Eliza Clark. I'm not sure if this defies a trope as much as it does a form, which is the true crime genre. So I don't know about that, but it definitely does take common true crime storytelling and turn it on its head, as it's a fictional story that's written like true crime. This is so well done. Eliza Clark wrote Boy Parts, which I loved. I wrote my dissertation on it. I was super excited to read her second book. It's very different from Boy Parts, but so good, so meticulously planned. And it is mixed media, so there's like podcast clips, there's newspaper articles, there's all sorts of things, and we have an unreliable reporter narrator. So good. So this book follows an investigative reporter journalist that wrote this book called Penance, which we are reading. It had a lot of controversy around it when it was released. Basically, it details this case of something that happened in a rural town in northern England where these 3 girls that I'm gonna say they were like 11 or 12 kidnapped this girl in their class, took her to the beach, tortured her, and burned her to death. Dark, definitely dark. We go into like the psyches of all these different girls. Honestly, I think the less you know about it, the better when you go into it. So that's all I'm gonna say, but I would highly recommend. Thank you guys so much for watching. I actually really loved this. I really enjoyed doing book tags. So let me know if you want to see any more from me in the future. Also, let me know if there's any spooky books or movies you want me to watch or read, because I would love any recommendations from you. If you've watched all the way to this point, put the ghost emoji, because I don't think they have a ghost face emoji, which is a bit rude. But yeah, put the ghost emoji. If you liked this video, give it a like. Consider subscribing to my channel. I post videos about once a week. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video soon. Bye.